But Lara, now it's your time. The stage is yours. Smart city meets digital out of home, and you have a presentation.
Yes, thank you so much. So welcome, and thank you for listening. In the next couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about how districts can become smart and what digital and sustainable solutions we already invented and also installed. And that's my favorite part because we are not talking about something that's only theory, but something we already installed in real life. So we have a smart district. So that's what I'm going to show you. First of all, that might sound a bit surprising, but I will just enlighten you and reveal what it has to do with the topic of digital out of home, because we are just talking about street lamps, and when we think about our everyday life, we see that when we have the darkness, streetlights always help us to find our way, and that's really important. And left alone in Europe, we have more than 65 million of them across all the country. And they basically have some certain characteristics that make them super important for us. They are basically everywhere. That means everywhere where people tend to stay. People are in like places, in city centers, they walk around, they use the pavements, they want to find a parking space, things like that. And everywhere where they want to go when it turns dark, they need the light. Street lamps are also connected to the power grid, which makes them quite useful. And even though we're thinking about the next couple of years, we feel like they are indispensable because we can't imagine a world where we don't have street light. So therefore, that makes them quite important for our daily lives. But then again, we just only have street lighting, and we were like, well, what if streetlights could do a bit more than just emitting light? What if they could also charge our e-cars, help people to connect with one another and make the public space safer? So we were like, there must be a solution. And when we look at smart cities nowadays, we feel like there are different challenges we have to deal with and different obstacles we also have to tackle. So on the one hand, we have like connectivity topics. We want to be connected. Wi-Fi is nearly a standard everywhere. And we also want to be sustainable. That's super important. We want to avoid waste of like everything we can imagine. Then there's also the topic of mobility cities have to deal with, because on the one hand, we want to have a larger infrastructure for charging our e-cars, and on the other hand, we also want to have more e-cars in the spaces. And then there's another topic called security, and by installing streetlights, we feel safe when it's dark. We just get to feel more comfortable while we are walking, and we also can install some emergency buttons in case of like real incidents, things like that. And then we have, last but not least, our digital out-of-home topic, which means that we can display information and also use the signages for advertising. So the most important thing with this picture you currently can see are that we have like different layers on it. On the one hand, we have the city where we install all the solutions. We have the challenges we want to tackle, but the thing we really want to focus on are the people. The people, you can see them in the picture, and then that's the most important thing we have to keep in mind, because we want to invent solutions that are really useful for our societies. We don't want to install something that's nice to have, but doesn't really do anything for our daily lives. So that's super important to keep in mind. And then we have this picture. Every time I look at it, I always think about visibility, because that was taken in February, and we have a crowd dancing and partying down there. But then again, we see our smart pole. And what we can also see is the display. These displays are double-sided. They are just 65 inches large, and they are ahead of all the people. So they don't want to take extra space. They just can be mounted on the smart poles. So that's super convenient. You don't have to keep the space free, but you can just install them, and people are still able to read all the important messages you want to communicate to them. So therefore, the visibility and the vertical format are super extraordinary with this kind of solution. So now I'm going to show you some pictures that have been taken in our smart district. So because I always like things that are not just in theory, but really installed. And this one has been taken in our latest district. And what you can see is that we can capture the audience's attention and provide meaningful information. And by meaningful information, I don't only mean advertisements, but rather like you convey to the people who are walking in the streets, in the city centers. At the moment, the city decided to inform the people to keep the distance so that they can feel safe. It basically says, stay healthy, wash your hands. It gives you tips and tricks, how to behave, how to adapt to the new conditions. And that's something the customer was really glad about, because they said, well, we see a decrease in traditional media and we definitely want to interact with the people in the city center. And we don't have too many options to do that. And that's why we want to install these screens in their city centers, just to get in touch with our society and the citizens. And then again, we also used the screens for different kind of information, because we also added some value by installing smart parking sensors. So while you're driving, you're always looking for a parking space, and vacant parking spaces are always kind of a problem to find, so you don't want to be stressed out. And with this kind of solution, the free parking spaces are already detected. You can just drive by the parking base, and then it just basically says, well, there you will find a free parking space, or you won't find one, so don't just give it a try, just drive and go to the next parking space. What makes it super convenient for the people and reduces stress, and also reduces the time people are using or consuming for just parking space search. And then again, we also added another thing, because we already installed some air quality sensors, and they detect the current air quality in this neighborhood. What we can do is that we are able to combine different kinds of sensors. So we will be able to detect vast areas, and can not only detect the air quality in one certain location, but rather across the whole city center. So we can explain the current air quality, we can just show historical data, what happened during the past week, and we can also explain what the air quality index, which is measured here, is about, because that's something quite new for people, and therefore we just want to add information, because with technology it's always a bit difficult to accept. And if you are if you try to make people accept new technology, you always have to explain it very well, because otherwise they won't feel comfortable using it, and they won't get a natural feeling while walking through the city center, because it's like a bit weird to see those new installations. And by just telling people what we are doing, just informing them and trying to take them with us, it gets more and more easy to make them feel comfortable with these new installations. So the main aspects we're just pursuing with these kind of installations is that we definitely have found a solution to compensate the decrease of traditional media, which is actually happening. And we can inform and connect people in a different way by just keeping public space still free so that just the passengers are able to walk without interruptions. And the best about it is that it always fits your project because these kind of digital signages are customizable. We can just add some size, we can just customize the height of the lanterns, and we can also say something about the shape of the pole because there we also have different options. And then again, the design is super important, so therefore we can also add some color just to make it fit in. And in the end, we just try to enable smart city solutions just by using digital solutions which are sustainable and which help us to build up a connected world. Because if we start small, we are just able to scale up quite fast. Because you just want to invent something, you just install it, and then you can give it a try, test it, make people feel adapt to it, and then give them the right feeling to use the technology to live with it. And then we also have people walking around feeling quite comfortable in their neighborhoods. And then you can just start scaling it up. So in the end, that's how you will become a real smart city, by adding more and more solutions, by just connecting the different IoT solutions, and then always show the data that has been collected to the people, to explain it and to get them on board, because otherwise it will sure be a failure, and that's why you always have to try to inform the people. So that's the main message, and therefore, thank you so much for listening.